Today, we're honoring one of the true giants in American traditional tattoo history, Paul Rogers. Now, whether you're tattooed or you're a tattooer, Rogers' contributions likely touch your life in ways you might not even know. So stick around because today, we're exploring the life, we're exploring the legacy, and the lasting impact of Paul Rogers, the man who revolutionized the tattoo machine. Welcome to Skin and Story. Paul Rogers was born September 9, 1905 in Spencer, North Carolina. He came up in the 1920s, a time when tattooing was still underground and mostly out of sight from polite society. Rogers started the way many did back then, as what we would call today a scratcher. That meant working without formal training, experimenting, and learning through mistakes. It was a path that was frowned upon by professionals even then. But Rogers had something that set him apart: persistence. He studied everything he could, slowly improving his technique. His break came when he crossed paths with the legendary Cap Coleman in Norfolk, Virginia. Coleman took him under his wing in the late 1920s, teaching him both the craft and the business of tattooing. What began as shaky scratcher tattoos transformed into solid work under Coleman's mentorship, laying the foundation for Rogers' future as a tattooer and a machine builder. Paul Rogers is best remembered today as an innovator and master craftsman of tattoo machines. In the 1940s and 50s, he refined earlier designs and made them smoother, made them more consistent, and really far more reliable. He was obsessed with how the machines worked. He would recut the frames, he would experiment with the springs, and constantly test the voltage until the machine ran exactly the way he thought it should. One of his most famous contributions was the cutback liner. This design shortened the front spring, giving the machine a faster stroke that could pack in those thick, bold outlines that we now consider the backbone of traditional tattooing. Before Rogers, machines often sputtered or ran inconsistently. They would often chew up the skin. With his refinements, artists could work faster, they could work cleaner, and really with more confidence. His machines became so iconic that today, they're museum pieces. They're treasured artifacts of tattoo history that collectors and artists alike both hold in the highest regards. Rogers wasn't just about machines. He was also a tattooer, and his flash reflected everything we now think of as traditional American tattooing. Imagine walking into a shop and seeing rows of his sheets, bold eagles, roses, hearts, daggers, and pinups, thick black outlines, solid fields of red or green, and designs that were instantly recognizable from across the room. His flash didn't just live on his own walls either. Rogers' flash circulated through shops across the country. They were passed from artist to artist. They became part of the visual vocabulary of tattooing. Clients might not have known his name, but they wore his designs for life. That's really one of the greatest ironies here. Rogers began as what we would call a scratcher, copying what he could, but he grew into a tattooer whose work others copied for decades. In the late 1950s, Paul Rogers teamed up with Huck Spaulding to form Spaulding and Rogers Manufacturing. For the first time, artists across the country could order high-quality machines and supplies by mail. This was a game changer. Before, access to equipment was guarded, almost secretive. Suddenly, anyone with the money and the interest could get a proper machine delivered right to their door. That access came with controversy. Professionals worried that too many scratchers would flood the field, diluting the craft. And to some degree, they were right. Spaulding and Rogers made tattooing more accessible than ever before, but it also raised the overall standard of equipment. Machines were no longer cobbled together from doorbells and radios. Rogers' influence meant artists had solid tools in their hands, tools that could produce cleaner, bolder tattoos and really push the art forward. Despite his fame, Paul Rogers stayed humble. Those who knew him describe him as generous with knowledge and quick to help younger tattooers. Don Ed Hardy once called him a real gentleman. He was someone who cared more about respect and craft than ego. Rogers kept building machines and mentoring tattooers right up until his death in 1990. His legacy lives on in two ways: the machines he built and the artists he influenced. Many of his handmade machines are preserved at the Tattoo Archive in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where they stand both as history and inspiration. The archive also sells books on Paul Rogers and his flash, giving today's tattooers a direct connection to his art and his ideas. For anyone serious about traditional tattooing, these books are essential. Paul Rogers' story is full of irony and nuance. He started out as what we would call a scratcher, someone the profession might have dismissed, but he grew into one of its greatest guardians. He worried about who had access to machines, Yet he helped create the company that put machines into more people's hands than ever before. That tension is part of what makes his story so unique, so interesting, and really so human. If you want to explore his flash sheets or dive deeper into his work, check out the Tattoo Archive. I'll put a link in the description below. Paul Rogers' legacy isn't just in the tattoos he created or in the machines that he built. It's in every artist who picks up a machine and respects the tradition that came before. Thanks for watching Skin and Story. The legacy of traditional tattoo lives in our skin and in our story.